Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of The Progressive World, where we talk about everything and anything related to the progressive world. We have a relatively small show for today. It's going to be very much dominated by the Cenk and Glenn Greenwald debates. And then also Glenn Greenwald went on the Vanguard. So we're going to talk about that. And Bad Fate podcast had a debate on critical race theory. But before that, I wanted to start off with some Julian Assange news. So Sam, I'm not sure if you heard about it. We covered Julian Assange last week, and there was some relatively good news. This week, not so. So this is Julian Assange's situation right now. He's in prison, although the British court had ruled that he cannot be extradited to the United States because of concerns for his mental health and being in a US prison. So that happened. However, the US went and appealed it right away, and the judge didn't allow Julian Assange to leave prison, didn't allow him to set bail, so they're keeping them for the appeal. Now, last week, there were some good developments where one of the main witnesses in the US case against Julian Assange came out and said that, yeah, I fabricated pretty much everything that I told you guys. I wasn't that high up in the WikiLeaks and all that, and he had new messages and unpublished documents to prove his case, apparently. So that was great, although it didn't directly relate to the whole extradition part. That would be about, okay, when he's in the US and then he's facing the the actual case against them, then it would matter. But right now, so pretty much the judge this week agreed that no, okay, the US can appeal the decision. So Julian Assange is going to have to stay in prison right now until the US appeals it and then see what happens there. No hearing has been assigned until then. And the reason that he's been allowed to appeal is because apparently this appeal was given based on the grounds that the lower court judge did not hear assurances of how Assange would be treated in American custody. So the Americans have come out and they're saying that we guarantee you that Assange would not be subject to special administrative measures in US custody or in prison at the Supermax prison in Florida. And they're also saying that he will be allowed to go and finish his sentence in Australia. If he is charged and he's sent to prison, he can go and, go to have a sentence in an Australian prison. So really all of it right now, it's not looking good for Assange. I mean, his wife has come out and said, this is ridiculous. How can we believe any of the things that they're saying? And also she's saying by the time he goes to even an Australian prison, that will be years because everything in the US needs to be exhausted. Pretty much has to get appealed all the way up to the Supreme Court. And then if the Supreme Court still agrees with the US side against Assange and he has to serve out, his proper prison term, only then, okay, he could be transferred to an Australian prison. So I hope I kind of gave a full overview of the story. I don't know if Sam, if you think some parts were clear, if I was missing, but yeah, pretty much the latest news is that there will be an appeal. The US government will be able to appeal it. And they're also presenting these kind of promises to the British side in order to convince them to let Assange be extradited to the United States. So I don't know if... Yeah.
Are there any, was gonna ask, are there promises or are they legal guarantees or something?
Good question. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how these assurances, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. They're called assurances, exactly. Very, very, very good question. I don't know. And Julian Assange's wife was on the Katie Halper show just last night, and I watched half of it. Well, sorry, his fiance. And she added a lot more details. So I feel like reading news articles, these details didn't come out. And I didn't get to finish the whole thing. So maybe in there, she kind of says exactly the nature of these assurances. But yeah, they're assurances made to the British authorities.
Because, it's like, yeah, sure. We won't hurt him. He'll be fine. Just like, I mean,
exactly.
This is a bad example in terms of that guy was an actual criminal, but just like Jeffrey Epstein, he'll be fine. But
yeah, he was
he was a real criminal.
Yeah, and I had another point that I will actually bring up. So last week when we discussed the Nathan Robinson versus Glenn Greenwald debate, I kind of made this analogy that the Democrats and the Republicans are like good cop, bad cop, but their objective is the same. I think with the Julian Assange case is a perfect example. So I got this from Wikipedia. So under the Obama administration, the Department of Justice did not indict Assange because it was unable to find any evidence that his actions differed from those of a journalist. So they weren't able to bring official charges, not because they weren't trying, but based on how they present and the way that they go about, they weren't really able to, although Julian Assange and his lawyers were saying there have been leaks that how they're trying to secretly indict him and all of that. But okay. But then after Trump took over, CIA Director Mike Pompeo and Attorney General Jeff Sessions stepped up the pursuit of Assange and really brought the criminal charges. And now Biden is doing what? He's following up on them, and he's even appealing it and everything. He has a chance to let it go. Just a perfect example of the good cop, bad cop. You know, their objective is the same, which is to imprison Julian Assange forever. They just go like this way. One like is like, oh yeah, fine, we can't really charge him, he didn't do anything. The other one's like, no, fuck it, I'll charge him this way. And the other one just follows, goes along, which at the end it leads to the same thing. But yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, no, that's to me not as surprising. But what is very surprising, and Glenn Greenwald was on the Hill, actually.
Yeah. Sure. Who were the hosts? Sorry, before you say that, who were the hosts?
Ryan Grimm, and the Emma, the lady who is got destroyed on the Soviet question, and yeah, Glenn pointed out that even though he is largely, it seems, hated by the mainstream media, and they don't like him,
Assange,
or
Glenn Greenwald. Okay.
Glenn Greenwald. Glenn. Even though they hate him, when he was under attack in Brazil for freedom of speech, and when in Brazil they went after him for exactly the same thing as what Assange is being attacked, like helping somebody to hack, something like that, accessory in hacking, I guess, if that makes sense. But yeah, so when they did that, even then, all the press, because they see themselves as this, we are all part of this press thing, and there's this sort of work solidarity or something, they came out to defend it. But with Assange, what they use as excuse is that he's not a journalist, so press freedoms are not under attack. But the thing is, like, okay, we get into this debate, I think, much further when we talk about Cenk and Glenn Greenwald interviews and discussions. But this idea that, like, I think we are talking about freedom of speech, and press, non-press, government officials, bosses, employees, all of them should have it. Like, but they see it as more of their own turf, and they feel like Assange came on their turf, and they have a huge jealousy of him. That's what Glenn argues, and that's really disgusting, because I'm not surprised by the people who, for example, tortured Chelsea Manning, that they are, being asked, they are being awful. As far as I'm concerned, Democrats, Republicans, say, especially foreign policy. But the media's silence and just complete, they don't care. Like Guardian, especially.
Yeah.
Because,
I mean,
Guardian, like, really, like, wow.
But Glenn points out in the beginning, they didn't. In the beginning, they tried to push back, and they were kind of worried about this exact thing, if they're going after Assange. Yeah. And he names a few
Obama
people.
Administration.
He names a few people, I think so, in the beginning, who were like, yeah, we can't let this happen to, to Julian Assange. The same thing could happen to us. But now they're kind of letting that go.
Yeah. Just Trump, increasingly, I guess Trump became such a big deal. Russia.
Yeah. But
yeah, that just that's why I'm not the good cop, bad cop. You mean? Definitely true. Although I would say that dynamic works the best during election times, or during justification for something, like, oh, if we didn't do that, Like
Yeah.
if we don't drone them, then we have to send people. So yeah.
So okay, should we switch to the main story before we we finish up with our smaller stories? So we'll
Sure.
just, I mean, so this week, 3 videos came out, right? Since the last episode of the Progressive World. There was Glenn Greenwald's video, then there was Cenk's response, and then I think you can add a third one, which is Glenn Greenwald going on the Vanguard, responding to some of
And
Cenk's
what I
comments.
think we should say what was Glenn Greenwald's video about.
Yeah. So I mean, Glenn Greenwald, I think he makes 2 points, or is trying to make 2 points in the video. Do you want to say them, or do you want me to go ahead?
No, I just wanted to give an overview that this whole thing is all about the whole smearing of Aaron Mate by Cenk Uygur, saying he was paid by the Russians, specifically, direct quote. And then the responses, and then it devolved into a culture debate about the jokes or harassments that Jimmy may or may have not made 7 years ago.
So yeah, I mean, I kind of wanted to approach this by going through the different points. But I mean, Glenn's video, we'll do that after. But Glenn's video made 2 points. One is that there's this new thing: whenever you don't like someone, you don't agree with them, you just say, oh, it's not new, actually. It's making a comeback in many ways. But it's like, oh, he's an agent of Russia, or, he's Russia funded and blah, 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 which, just, so shut up, go to the side, and can also destroy your career. And the second thing that is done in a lot of liberal circles is to bring out this kind of accusations of sexual harassment without the evidence, which also destroys the person's career and shuts them up. So I think there were 2 points that in a way relate, but he spent like half an hour on one and half an hour on the other. And so for me, these were the main 2 points that he made. So I think this actually leads very well into like the kind of approaches I wanted to break down, because the first thing about Cenk's response that I wanted to say is that, and everybody knows this, obvious, he completely omits the first part, which is about Aaron Mate and just smearing someone that you don't like, saying, oh, he's a Russian asset, to just shut him up. So, I mean, I don't know if there's much to say here, except, except Cenk didn't even mention it once.
He doesn't mention it. The only thing you could say that he refers to it is that he accuses Glenn of hypocrisy, because he says other people are accusing us of being funded by blah, 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 but you don't call them out. But
that's
you
true,
call
though.
us out.
But it's literally true.
There is a risk. What's true?
That they are funded by, like, when people say you're funded by X, Y, and Z, those are literally facts. It's not that they're like made up.
Sure. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, I was going to say the difference is that they have evidence, first of all. Second of all, it's a bit, I think Glenn's point, which he makes in the video, is that the right wing or the center always been like this.
Mm-hmm.
It's surprising when it happens in the left, especially because left used to be for freedom, for example, sexual liberation, and for that type of thing. But it seems nowadays they are more of like they are. It's, as he says, the obsession with hygiene. It seems there's this. That was, sorry, from another person, but this obsession with hygiene of words and language and life, and is this person a good person, and that type of thing. Which I don't want to demean any of crimes committed by people in positions of power, sexual, otherwise. But yeah, I think there is a, like, in the right and center has always been like that. They care about family, and they care about nuclear family and that type of family values and that type of thing. So when it's happening in the left, and since Trump's coming to power, it's increased heavily, but it has started before that. I think that's another response, besides the fact that, yes, they have the evidence.
Yeah.
You don't seem to have any evidence, and never mention your specific claims ever again.
Yeah. No, and exactly. I mean, my overall main point for this video was the main one, which is that Cenk either had weird interpretations or he just reached like weird conclusions in his
That's
video and
cool. Yeah.
in all of them. But yeah, that's why we're breaking this down because it's too general. So yeah, omitted the Aaron Mata one completely. Then I like to call what I say like bad interpretation. And he probably had a series of these bad interpretation one. But one is the blackmail one. Like, I mean, that was in the beginning of his video. He really like that was a main part where he reads like the end, which will put the the text on the screen right now. He reads like the end of it and he's like, that's not blackmail. That Anna said precisely that you need, if you don't stop, I'll continue. But I see it as two-way. It can be two things to me. A lot of people, most people interpret it as blackmail. She didn't explicitly say it, but it could be like, listen, if you stop, this is the last time I'm giving you this chance. If not, I'm coming after you with X, Y, and Z. Or she straight up threatened him, which is also not good. So I'm not too sure where like Cenk was like the point that Cenk was trying to make. I don't think most people interpreted it the way he did.
Well, let me. I don't. Yeah. The only thing I would say, I think it's definitely a threat, but I would add that the problem with text, and that's why I rarely use them, as you know, like I always try to do a call, or excuse me, whenever I use a text is to set up a call, like, are you free now? Can you talk type thing? Because you can't convey tone in a text. This is not justification. It's just saying that I don't know, because Jimmy was making videos attacking TYT on policy correctly, in my view. And his attacks are, you know, he knows, and I think a lot of people said he goes nuclear or whatever. His attacks are, you know, can be tough to take. And that's why sometimes I think that's why they're effective, because if they weren't as tough to take, then AOC and stuff, they wouldn't feel the need to respond or something. So it's not a criticism, but he was attacking them. So I don't know, you know, you can't read from the lines, the tone of the thing. Anna might have gotten drunk one night, saw a video, and send an angry text like I might send to a friend that, oh, Kam, I saw you on this other show saying I'm paid by the, you know, by the American government. Fuck you. I'm gonna come after you. You know that. You know
that's threatening, though.
That's threatening, but it's a different threat thing between that and I think weaponizing sexual harassment stuff.
I don't know. I don't quite follow this story of yours here. I don't quite get it.
Well, it's the difference.
I understand that tone
between assassinating someone and running somebody over. That's the intentionality, and like when you get drunk, you may, because it was a personal
But I don't understand this
message.
whole drunk thing that you're bringing into. Exactly. She says the last part, which TYT showed himself. She's like, I don't see why you would need the tone and all that. Of course, that would help. But she's like, I've been holding back, letting you run your mouth nonstop as if you're some sort of warrior of what's good in the world. That is going to change. I mean, it conveys a lot already. It already conveys a lot.
That could mean I'm gonna make response videos. That could mean I'm gonna.
But sure, those are different kinds of threats. I mean, yeah.
This is by the way, I just want to make it clear that I agree with your interpretation. All I'm saying that you can't read as a, like, I won't feel comfortable like making that judgment 100%. I get angry at my friends. I have gotten angry at my family, at the closest people in my family, and have said things to them that I still every night I regret. So that's different from trying to weaponize sexual harassment in a very calculated and calculated and planned manner. That's all I'm saying. Like, in my view, like what happened with Aziz Ansari. Do you remember that?
Yep.
That's what, I don't know if people remember. I read up on that. That was, in my view, one of the first cases that started the backlash against the Me Too and stuff. Yeah. Why? Because it was a clear case of somebody weaponizing Me Too movement with and the correct and justified claims of many women about sexual harassment and workplace. They try to abuse that, in my view, to raise their profile, to get money, to blah, blah, blah. right? That's different from somebody getting angry at somebody who they've known for many years. That's all I'm saying. Although I agree with your interpretation, I think she was threatening him and she was going to do that and all that. But because it's a text, uh, I just don't know if I don't want to say 100%. That's all
I mean, I
don't want to
don't know.
say
I don't
100%
understand what you're not saying 100% to, though. I mean, I would understand that, like, you could, if there was like more, like if there was
the
tone to it and it
intentionality.
was voicemail or something, you can be like, yo, that's a super aggressive threat. Holy shit, blah, blah, blah. That's why I'm not giving those kind of things. Okay, I don't know. But it still
Oh
reads,
no, to be
or
honest,
like some kind
look,
of threat
if it,
or blackmail.
no, if it was a voice, if it was a voice of somebody angry, that's different actually from somebody who, imagine if it was Anna calmly saying that, you know what, Jimmy, I'm gonna use that. Do you remember that time? You can tell from tone of somebody. I don't know. I just think you
Yeah,
can
it
tell if
adds
somebody's
more
being
to it.
genuine or not.
I agree that
But
it
yeah,
adds
sure.
more
But
to
but
it,
but
but
but it's definitely a threat for sure. I'm just saying the intentionality and all of that is
the
not clear.
internationality of what, though? That the internet, the intentionality of what, though?
That was she calculating, like was she gonna was she doing it in a calculating way, or was she pulling something out of her ass just because she was in a verbal? Because when you watch a YouTube video that is attacking you, when I read a comment sometimes that people write, comment may have been written 17 hours ago, but at that moment I feel attacked and I just want to respond, right? So I might get angry and say something that I don't, I wouldn't say, like right now when I'm trying to think
Yeah.
every word, right? So that, or was it like she saw this video and said, oh, you know what I mean? Like 2 days later.
I don't know. To be honest, I don't quite. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I don't get
Fair
why
enough.
you're
No, fair enough.
adding these other things to it that are even more speculation. Now you're
Maybe.
speculating, was she drinking?
Yeah,
Was she
I
doing
am.
you're creating a scenario?
Fair
Maybe she
enough.
got
Fair
into a
enough.
fight with her husband, so she
No, I'm
was in an
just saying I
extra
hate.
bad mood.
Okay, I guess mom. That's why I started with this. I hate texts because I find the ambiguity of that's the whole point. That's why the left is so fractious, because there's all these different interpretations of Marx's works, because written words don't have tone, and that's a big
But
problem.
they still
Add tone,
convey a
add
lot, though.
something.
They still convey a
Sure,
lot.
sure. No, still a threat. It's definitely a threat.
Yeah.
I don't know what's the difference between blackmail and a threat.
Well, I guess
But
threat is the follow-up of a blackmail, no?
and but by the way,
It's
yeah,
I don't know.
threats, yeah, yeah, exactly. If you don't do that, then I'll okay. And it's just, by the way, let's call it having fun in the
Yeah, I
park.
don't know. Did Jink?
Whatever
Yeah,
what is
exactly.
this dictionary? What are we fighting over
Did
the
Jink
dictionary
suggest
definition?
the word? I don't think he suggested like I mean, this is
He says
something, right?
blackmail. He says blackmail. He says blackmail is by definition is. Uh, sorry, I have to
Yeah,
my
your
change my
microphone. Yeah,
mic.
go ahead, your headphones.
Hello?
Yeah.
Fox. Hello?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can hear.
I can hear you. Just keep on going.
Select a speaker or microphone.
No, speaker.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Nice, Ali. Tap on your thing. Let's see if your voice is coming out of there. Yeah. It makes like the smallest, faintest noise. I would assume that it would make a bigger noise, but it's like.
Okay, let's go until this one is the last
Okay.
one I have.
All right. Okay, folks, sorry about that. We're back. We had some Katie Halper style issues, but we've overcome them and now everything is good. So Sam, I don't know, should we move on from the blackmail part, or is there anything else? I mean, I think we've both
No, I
said.
just wanted to clarify the dictionary definition is not the discussion right now. And the biggest annoying part is the fact that he omits anything about what at least Anna had the guts to respond to the whole thing. He still hasn't even responded to.
Yeah.
He's paid by the Russians. Any evidence? Any? Yeah.
100%. I mean, that's the main one. But yeah, let's keep on going with the smaller ones. So this other one, I've been trying to frame my thinking around it and what I'm trying to say. So if I'm a bit unclear, but it's this kind of weaponizing of journalism and like news stories that I've been hearing a lot. And it's not just Cenk doing it in this way, but in different ways where, I mean, journalism is like made to look like, oh, if you do journalism, you're such a good person, and then you should like never make a mistake. You know, Cenk is like, oh, what are you, a journalist? Of course not. If not, you wouldn't have made like this mistake that I don't agree with. And then in the end of the video, he goes on to saying like, oh, and we're gonna cover news here. This is what we really do, is cover news. So this whole journalism and news argument, I find, is being used to also dismiss conversations and like undermine people or like channels. Oh, you're not doing something good. I'm doing journalism. This isn't real journalism. Like sometimes people are also like undermining themselves with this with this journalism thing. They're like, yeah, we know we don't do journalism, but you know, hey, nothing to apologize. There are all kinds of jobs. Journalism isn't inherently good. If you don't do good journalism, then it's not good journalism. You know, political commentary also has its place. If you report on good stories in a good way, you might have a better and more positive impact than journalism. It's just my ideas might not be clear, but there's this whole journalism news thing that's being used, and it's not unique to Cenk, to kind of dismiss stories and dismiss people. I find recently I see it a lot.
Well, I think it's a type of ad hominem attack that they attack the person rather than the argument. So that's obviously
Very good.
First of all. Second of all, I've seen that with a lot of things, that with a lot of jobs or careers or whatever you want to call them, that or people talking about a lot of a real doctor wouldn't do this. A real doctor would care about his patients and have good bedside manners. A real politician would care about his constituencies. A real politician wouldn't act like Trump. You know, a real politician would act like a statesman or educated. A real academic, blah, a real blah. And we all have, by the way, I might with you or with my dad or something, like friend, I discuss and say, in my view, a real blah would be a real thing. But I try to keep that not to like it's my personal view. And I think in terms of like publicly, if you are getting paid for a job, then like if you're reporting news from AP or Reuters from a location, or you're investigating something more in a Glenn Greenwald manner type thing, then you're a journalist. Even if you cover like Daily Mail people, they cover some of the lowest of the, they are journalists, they are paid journalists. If you are not reporting and commenting on the best stories ever, your commentary, like you make commentaries. You know, we make commentaries, we analyze news, we don't report them, we don't produce them, we don't find them, we just comment on it. That's all, right? And yeah, as you said, there is no problem with that. It's just, yeah, it's in my view, the careers are, you have that career when you are paid. So that's as simple as that to me. Like if like you know, somebody's like earning money through that thing, then they are journalists.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so this whole, and it's fine that you say it's done everywhere else. I mean, everywhere else in all other industries, it is also done that, you know, if you're a doctor, then you know this that way, or you should do that way. No, 100%. And
a real politician.
Yeah. And it kind of reminded me the news part of it. So there's the weaponizing of journalism and also the weaponizing of news. You know, this is drama, or you don't focus on important stuff like we do. Who's the video that you just told me? The guy just took a quick look at like TYT's like first 10 videos that just pop up now.
Oh,
what's his name?
Lee Camp.
Yeah. And you know,
Lee Camp does a show on RT.
Yeah, so it's true, he's from RT. Okay, yeah. So he just posted this video, right? And I mean, it's not a systematic analysis. Oh, is that
no, wait, that's from 2 weeks ago. He just had Aaron Matt on. He just had Aaron Matt on yesterday, I think. And in which he called the Young Turks middle-aged McCarthyites.
Yeah. Okay, so in this video, basically the one that you sent me, he just looks at some of the recent videos and he points out that most of them are not that serious. Let's just put it that way.
Wait, yeah, no. Wait, let's just put. So we finish the first point that it doesn't like journalism or.
But the news
like,
one I related to that.
There is no.
Yeah. Very well.
I know. So that's one point, and then in this specific case, and in this specific person who is claiming that we do real journalism, we don't have time to respond to your videos or
he says
comments.
News.
We are doing real journalism.
Yeah, real news, he says.
Oh, real news.
Yeah, he says news. Okay. Yeah. To be fair, exactly. Sorry. But yeah, exactly. Go on.
I don't want to misquote you. No, just that. Yeah, in this, and now get to your Lee Camp. Yeah, I think that's
exactly
great. Yeah,
because he ends his video like this, right? He ends the video by saying, you know, we make these news stories, and you know, I did this, but now I'm gonna go back to covering the news. and then exactly the Lee Camp guy, he I think he randomly looks at like the latest stories that are on TYT. So again, it's not systematic analysis, but I mean, he points out how most of them, which I don't think they're meritless. Like, I don't even think that the stories are bullshit. But from someone who's like, oh, we cover news and all this, and then you look at their like videos, it's like X made fun of Y, Z said like blah blah blah, or McCain said that. Like, I mean, just calm down, buddy. Like, people will judge if you make stories that are worth it. You know, no need to go around and make news stories, and then you talk about crap half the time.
Yeah, I would. First of all, I disagree with you with I think most of their videos are not even newsworthy, and I don't mean that in a sense that I get or anybody gets to be arbiter of what is newsworthy or not. But that, first of all, that's my personal opinion. Second of all, it's like, I would say it's not. Even if they're newsworthy, let's say my personal opinion aside, they're newsworthy, but they're not very broad issues. Mm-hmm. They're very small issues, national issues, and they tend to be, there seems to be a tendency, a lot of clickbaity stuff, which drama, I think covering drama solely dedicating your channel to covering drama is not very positive probably, but drama is just a subcategory of being a clickbaity. And when you have videos about Matt Gaetz and Republicans with, you know, very, 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 very provocative titles, Trump. I mean, how much clickbaity
I mean,
Trump shit TYT did, and it's just the hypocrisy
yeah.
is. And by the way, I don't know TYT since the whole Charlottesville Jordan Chariton thing. I don't know if TYT does any original reporting. From what I see, usually they say AP reported
I
that,
mean,
CNN reported
on the
this. What do we do?
journalism, 100%. On the journalism
Which
one, they
is,
do 100% nothing. I was just giving Cenk a little bit of credit
I
because
think
he
they
uses the
maybe
word news in this video
they
more or
do
less.
some shit. They get they do get the news pass on conventions. They send people to stuff. I don't want to completely say that, but I haven't seen anything important or substantial. Or and Lee makes the second point, which is great, which is they don't even have like deep analyses. They just repeat the news story, say some clickbait. But then
Again, it's
again,
fine.
no. All of this is like coming from us, especially.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. But what is with the high horse?
Exactly.
And you built your channel on clickbaity stuff. Everybody's reposting now about sex, like commenting on animal sex and like celebrity body parts and all
Yeah.
that. Like, and okay, you say you changed during the last 10 years or whatever, but you have no sympathy for the people who are in your like. It's like even if you think you are a drug addict that put the drug aside, are you so disgusted by drug addicts now? You're
no, I know, right?
People,
Cenk's like
people who quit smoking, and then when you smoke near the sadly I'm a smoker and I know it's awful, but you smoke near them and they're like, oh, disgusting. And you're like, you were a smoker till yesterday. Fuck you. Like,
no, exactly.
so,
like exactly. Like Cenk, I understand he apologized, which based on my understanding, he really apologized for his college pre-TYT shit, which was just like
Cenk?
Yeah, which was another level of insaneness. But even if you apologize, you're not like a newborn baby after or something where like everything's been, erased, okay, and then new life. Okay, no, it's good that you apologize at least for the most insane things that like anybody we know has ever said.
Oh, well, okay.
Like we know through YouTube.
All right. No, I mean, come on. I mean,
that we listen or support. I mean, of course, fuck news or something, but
listen and so
not support, but used to support or like listen to.
That's the thing with. But we'll get to this, I think, when we get to Glenn Greenwald Vanguard interview. But that's the thing. I never supported him. I listened to.
But you listen.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, within that, I just meant like among other people in the progressive and stuff like that, he has like the most fucked up past. One of the most fucked up, sure.
One of the most.
Sure.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. No. Yeah. But I would say my favorite part of TYT back in the days was they had this program whose name, which name escapes my mind, but Ben Menkowitz, whose political analysis I'm not a big fan of, but I like this. He does great movie journalism in my view, and when they shifted, they were raising money, and then they shifted completely towards this becoming political hub or something. They got rid of all of that. So yeah, I was listening mostly to that stuff. Okay.
All right. So I think I have a small point here to make, and then we're going to move on to the funding one, which is Cenk makes this ridiculous, stupid thing of like, oh, even if you accept, which I 100% don't, that like Glenn made a mistake with this story or something like that. Cenk says, okay, now you can't believe anything this guy has ever said in his life. Don't believe anything. I mean, literally the same thing he did with Julian Assange in 2017 or something, which again, weren't even based, even the premise wasn't true. But even if you accepted his premise, he's like, okay, now you can't believe anything about Julian Assange that he's done in the past. I mean, based on this, Cenk canceled himself out like 3 years before he was born. Like, I mean, nobody should ever listen to anything. If we were going to hold him to this criteria of you say something wrong, you never again. I mean, damn, Cenk canceled himself out a long time ago. Oh, let me guess, he apologized?
Yeah, that's his argument, I would say. That would be his argument, not
yeah,
mine.
yeah.
Yeah. But I would say he's, yeah, to be honest, the thing is, I think the safe bet for everybody is to always be suspicious of the motives of somebody who's promoting an idea, especially and including, especially including me and every other person. I mean, if like, unless you're an idiot, like every time Glenn writes an article, I don't approach it as a Old Testament
Yep.
or Matt Taibbi, which I think I really like. If yeah, I like Matt Taibbi's work more than Glenn's work, like in terms of like writing and stuff. Uh, it's, and by the way, no, it's just, by the way, this, I mean,
wait, are you
see
trying
from
to say that, are you trying to say that everything that a journalist writes isn't true always? Have you've made that discovery?
No, I'm trying
joking,
to say that not journalists, everybody
anyone.
has a bias. So what the fuck? And this, like, there are people like there are a lot of people who are Russiagators now who did great work on whistleblowing before. People change, people's positions change, they make mistakes even if they don't have bad intentions. So I don't know what Cenk is trying to, like, I really didn't understand that part. That part felt, yeah, I don't know.
And Sam, you pointed this out yesterday, but then Cenk says that he's changed. Then he says that Glenn Greenwald has changed. So which one is it? He's changed or he's always been a bad guy? But anyway, if we're going to go with these inconsistencies, we'll be here until tomorrow.
No, but that's a very important point, because at the end he says that I've changed during the last 10 years. Glenn's changed, and you decide who's changed for the better. What? So did he change, or should you trust his work before? And by the way, if you were stupid enough to think Glenn is a good journalist, quote unquote, and because of that, okay, guys, we have to trust him, unless he attacks me personally, then we can't trust him. Like, what is this system you're going by? I feel bad for him. Maybe that's why, apparently, I mean, the business is not doing well. But you're going too much on trust, my friend. It seems like, based on your suggestion to others.
Okay, nobody's
trusting anybody. They're seeing evidence. Yeah,
indeed, evidence. Good point. Okay, this is a good way to segue to the funding argument. And your position is pretty much like Glenn's. He says the same thing on the Vanguard, I think. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I think I would say the majority of the people who are who have taken the position that TYT is on the wrong in their smearing of Aaron Matte and other things, they are saying that they shifted to the right because they got funding from Jeffrey Katzenberg, one of the, by the way, biggest failures in terms of like investors in like, he invested in Quibi. A lot of people may not know. Google Quibi, and biggest failure ever. But anyway, so they say he got at these fundings and then they shifted. That's the arguments and they're made. Glenn puts forward the argument, which I disagree with. They never shifted. They were never a threat to the democratic establishment. They were always a bit of a, in my view, nationalistic socialist thing. Like, they're very socialist for their country, but always the way Cenk talked about US Constitution and Jefferson and all that. Kyle, by the way, used to do that too. So maybe Kyle Kalinske is of the same position. Like, this idea that US Constitution is this great, like, text or something. So they, my view and Glenn's view, I think Glenn's view was that he didn't shift, and he's not playing a multi-dimensional chess. He's been a bit of a meathead and an idiot. And in reality, in my real life, when people are accused and of doing something wrong, and they're in position of power, for example, and somebody lower accuses them, I've seen this type of reaction a lot, that they feel cornered, they get angry at everybody, they go for all kinds of justice. That's, again, this is my perspective, not like, I'm not, so yeah, I think this is more likely than getting money from Katzenberg. an idiot, frankly. And then, Cenk, will you slightly,
Yeah.
very slowly, that's part of it. I do think clickbaity Trump,
Yeah.
TYT has a different type of audience. They obviously think about the content they put out. That's part of it. And I don't know if you wanted to make a point, but if not, I wanted to
No,
make a
no.
segue to the intercept thing.
You want to talk about
The
the intercept? Okay, if it
the,
relates
the thing I
exactly
told
to
you
the
yesterday.
funding, yeah,
Yeah,
go
yeah,
ahead. Okay, I
exactly.
was going to talk about the Vanguard part
Yeah,
because brings
and
it
this
up
is
the
a
most.
specific. I'm sure I might get a lot of. This might not go down well with some of our audience, but yeah, I hate that. Yeah, the people that keep saying billionaire funded this, billionaire funded that, because I think it's a bit of a smear. In a way, I hate Intercept. Not. I don't hate. Sorry, I just get emotional. I don't like their new work, especially in the last 2-3 years, especially since Trump came to power and all that. I'm not a big fan of their new editor's work, Betsy DeVos, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, I'm not a fan at all. But Glenn Greenwald went on Jimmy Dore's show and on Vanguard again was asked about this. That was it the billionaires. Billionaires are not worried about TYT. They're not worried about Jimmy Dore. They're not worried about Intercept. There are armies in the Middle East that won't put fear into the billionaires' hearts. That billionaire heart, by the way, in case of Omid PRR, somebody who went out, found Jeremy Scahill, Glenn Greenwald, and another person whose name escapes my mind, puts them together. They told him they needed somebody to help with the managing of the thing. They brought in Betsy DeVos on from The Nation, the most left-wing, I think, newspaper at the time. So I think billionaire. In fact, in my experience, the majority of the people who I found are in support of radical changes uh, in in global political economy are from the middle class or the richer parts of the society. So I hate this thing, just like I hate when they say the working class people are all a bunch of uneducated, racist, white racist rednecks. Oh, look at them, blah blah blah. I'm sorry, but billionaires are also, they're not just in their, they're not spending their nights worrying about TYT's direction in Trump era. They're not. Seriously, nobody gives a shit. Yeah. So, and same with Intercept. It's a cultural thing. I think Glenn describes this thing that they felt. He says that even their employees were saying when Trump won, we feel responsible for, like, people are mental. They think like their journalism has like, or their work has like
Seriously.
that type of effect. Like, you see, seriously, like, we have to apologize. We contributed to the Trump winning. The fuck off. Like, you're not like, you don't count. You're not even the butterfly in the
Yeah.
butterfly effect. Like, So I just think, yeah. I think we have billionaires in this instance, in this very, very unique and exceptional instance, even though a lot of them are bad people and mostly they are doing bad things, and systematically they are contributing to a lot of bad things. But I don't think you should hold people. So I think it
Especially in these
promotes
two
when you start,
cases
especially in these two cases, and it
where we have some
undermines
evidence on the other side.
and it undermines. We have so many good arguments against these people, and then going suddenly putting this bullshit in the middle of all these good arguments. It's like putting this is a very like some idiot used this recently, but it's like putting a drop of piss in a bucket of water. It's like, just don't say it, because the person who this side of the argument, who trust and who was in the company, is not saying it. Is saying, no, it's not like that. It's the management, it's the culture, it's these upwardly moving yuppies, basically. We can get into what root cause of that specifically. But when I think it's just wrong to say.
I mean,
and in case of Cenk, it's just I think in Cenk I don't have that much evidence. I like to see the contract though. I think he could, if he has nothing to fear, to be honest, just publish your contract and see if you have editorial control or if you don't have.
I mean, even if there's editorial, there could be soft power on him. I mean, I'm guessing Jeff. I mean, they found TYT to be like, you know, close enough to their side. So maybe with some funding, you know, they thought but now we're sure that these people are more on our side. But like
with soft power, you can tell over time. You can tell, okay, they reinvested in them again, so that makes sense. Or they stopped investing in them because they didn't change. So you can, but you're right, though. You're right.
But with TYT, exactly, not much has changed except the Russian gate thing is the new like added thing that happened 4 or 5 years ago that just created this rift where like it's even different, because before that we all know what kind of person Cenk was. They were like a bit more to the left of the Democrat, not too crazy. But then there was this like extra Russia gate that came in, and they're like,
sorry, by the way, for somebody during who you just reminded me of this, somebody who during Russia gate, from the slightest text or slightest, I remember one of Trump's sons one time said that, we have a lot of investors from Russia or something. And you see, guys, talk, tick, 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 talk, whatever he did, you know, and he now interprets Anna's message, by the way, in the most charitable, in the most, she didn't mean it in any negative way. She was just saying that you are so bad that I might, sorry, that just literally just came to my head. But the smearing thing is new, I suppose. The Russia, that's their new crime.
I mean, and exactly when TYT were so anti-Russia and everything, the Democrats, it's just perfect for someone to fund them. And they
interpreted emails, messages in such uncharitable ways, and fair enough, you should do that. That should be in my view, your default position. But when Glenn does it to them, they are like, "Oh, you blackmail? How do you blackmail? This is not blackmail." It's just, god damn, hypocrisy is the word. I mean, it's really funny. There is this Canadian comedian who makes this just, he says about Bill Cosby, who, by the way, like a lot of people said the hypocrisy was the worst, and he says, "Was it though?" Like, I don't think in his case hypocrisy wasn't the worst, but I think in their case hypocrisy is, to me,
up there.
So it's so staggering.
But I mean, Glenn's explanation, the Intercept one, is like 100% and so clear. And now the impact that this funding had, I'm sure it had an impact on TYT. Everything has an impact. But whether that's the point of causality that made them go in another direction, that's where it kind of becomes hard.
They've always been clickbaity. They just moved more to politics during the last 5 years.
And the Trump thing happened, and the whole Trump thing happened, which was like, and the Trump and Russiagate thing, which is changed them. I don't know if they're embarrassed to go back and say like, hey, we really misinterpreted this situation. I feel like a lot of it has to do with that and their ego. I mean, if they come out and apologize for that, even that fixes half of their issues, like themselves would get that off their back.
Yeah, it's very hard though. I can imagine it's very hard to say for a grown 50-year-old man that I got angry because somebody dunked me on a tweet, and I may have because look, I mean,
if you make a point once or twice, it's easy to go back on it. But at this point,
YouTube is, I mean, I used to criticize a lot of people for saying a stupid shit on YouTube and Twitter, but it is a weird experience, I must admit, because when you do it or when you watch it, you're experiencing it very personalized, but it is a public forum. I'm not talking to you in my house. We are talking publicly. So it's hard. It's very hard.
Okay, so I have two things that are kind of two questions to Cenk. So I wanted to we're almost nearing the end of this section. So, Sam, I have two questions I would have to ask Cenk, and you tell me if they're fair or not, right? Cenk says, oh, when Jimmy made fun of the new skirt, the implication is that, people are just here to watch Anna Kasparian because of the way she looks and don't take her seriously at all about, her takes and her giving the news, right? He says that's what this implies. But what about Kyle's tweet? Why is that okay? Now, he could maybe come back with something and be like, no, Kyle is her friend, is more of a friend, so it's okay. But no, but the funny is around the same period of time, Kyle made a joke that can be interpreted literally the same way or even much worse, because he says that if Cenk makes the news, nobody watches. If it's Anna doing masturbating instead of Cenk masturbating, then everybody watches. So I was just surprised now that this tweet has come out. Why didn't he address this?
I disagree with you on the interpretation of that specific tweet, to be honest. I don't think it's the same.
It's worse.
It's no, I don't think so. In a way, I think it's no, because I think that joke is making fun of viewers, isn't it? That men are idiots and they watch like women.
Well,
so anyways, get, but that tweet aside, Cenk, Kyle, a lot of other people, I'm not talking about Noam Chomsky and Richard Wolff, by the way. I'm not talking about Yanis Varoufakis or Julian Assange or Glenn Greenwald, Matt Taibbi, people who've done I haven't done shit. I have no ground to stand on to criticize things. But people like Cenk, who has done so many contents that is resurfacing, that you have no ground on to stand on any. What the fuck are you talking about? You sent Anna out to ask a stranger to buy her shoes, pimping her out, kind of, basically.
Literally.
And then what? This is I mean, it's exactly. But anyways, I
and my second question is that how is the TYT video?
You should. No. Just your question is completely lying. Like based on what are you like? What is your who are you?
Well, I guess he keeps on saying he apologized. That's all he can come back with. Because the other one is what's different with what TYT was doing in their video.
Well, Jimmy had to apologize.
Yeah, and Jimmy apologized.
Jimmy is the only one who has apologized during this whole
for this specific thing. But the other, what's different in the videos that TYT used to make and talking about women in that way, that's so much worse. But then again, I guess he would say I apologized or something.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
Which apology is the start somewhere, but like I said, it doesn't erase your past.
And let it, let it like a decade pass or something, and then write 2 books about how sorry you are, then start moralizing to others about fucking clickbait and they mention us because we are the bigger channel and they get mentions. What TYT? We put Britney Spears, you get more clicks than fucking TYT. Like it's just again you've the level of projection, to be honest, in his response. I think it's pretty much I mean, I don't want to I hate what I'm doing right now, which is reading intentions, but it does seem that way.
Yeah. But okay, let me try to be insanely fair to Cenk, but I'm not. Cenk has because I agree with Glenn after at the end of it. But Cenk has one thing. He says that, again, it comes back to the journalism thing. So he throws that in, but you don't even need that. He's like, Glenn, you said that Anna was Jimmy's boss at this time, but you just made that up. Why didn't you go check that fact? Where did you hear that? I've heard Jimmy make that claim 2 or 3 times. Maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong. Why didn't TYT ever counter that? That's where Glenn got it. He's heard everybody say how she was his boss. And anyone is like, oh, you're a journalist. How can you make this mistake? Calm down, buddy.
I think Jimmy, I've heard Jimmy say she was, I think in the original videos he said was my boss, but he said in the future videos she was an executive.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she was probably
higher
position, but not in a position to fire or hire like Jimmy.
Yeah.
So I think that's the misunderstanding there. Although I think this is a misunderstanding that TYT will try to keep as a misunderstanding. Like, I don't, by the way, just the
But they
biggest
have
caveat
nothing
of,
else to hold on. I mean,
yeah, the biggest caveat of all of this, I would say, is that I don't understand why these people who have known each other for many years can't just call each other instead of making response videos. At least the Jimmy Dore, Cenk, Anna, uh, Kyle ones. Glenn, I don't know his relationship with but these people, at least I know they've worked together for some time. They've been on. So I don't understand why just call.
I think
response.
Kyle and Jimmy Dore could have perhaps, but TYT and there's no calling
Cenk
between
was
TYT
so
and
many
Jimmy
years.
Dore. I mean, that's.
I think that's the most mature way, but yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's tough, but yeah, you're right. But I would say maybe it's a conspiracy theory to get all of us worked up.
Hey, it's good for us.
Behind the scenes, they're laughing you up. Yeah, Anna, I love you. Yeah, Jimmy.
No, at this point,
Cheers.
I don't think so. Okay, and let me tell you another thing that Cenk tries to say, but I think it's a bad faith interpretation. So Glenn Greenwald says that I don't know, I wasn't there, so I don't know what happened in 2014. And Glenn's like, how could you not know? Your friend told you, blah, blah, blah. How could you're a journalist and you say that you don't know? But I believe Glenn, of course, he's heard Jimmy's version of it and Anna's, which are pretty much the same. But I believe he was referring to the fact that he wasn't at TYT that whole year when they say there was sexual harassment happening that whole time where no evidence has been shown. So Glenn is saying, I wasn't there. He wasn't speaking of that specific moment. And that specific moment, I mean, both sides, they're saying the same thing. They said an inappropriate joke was made and Jimmy's sorry about it.
That's a specific moment as well. And he also mentions in the Vanguard thing that in the workplace they created. What he's referring to, I think very politely there, is that what you expect when you're what this is like, okay, when like
again when Kyle can joke like that.
Yeah, it's exactly. If I work for Deloitte, all right, I am expected to wear suit and tie. Yeah, it's it's not a fucking joke thing. But when I work for TYT, when everybody's joking around, I mean, we've all seen their videos or like all that, or and that was the whole point of YouTube and all that authenticity and being relaxed and being jokey and stuff. But you guys took it to another level of jokiness and bodiness and hilarity with nude pictures and all that of celebrities. So like, again, like why context matters. Exactly, this is why.
Exactly, 100%. Very good. The other one is, and this one actually, Glenn is courageous. He didn't need to give this example when he wanted to make his point, but he used Brett Kavanaugh, his example, and even there he said that there was they tried to ruin his career where there was no evidence. I mean, I kind of disagree. Let me just tell you what I mean. There was some evidence. The woman came out, the accusations were made. However, I was reading the Wikipedia part just before this, just to refresh my memory. I didn't follow that close. But when I was reading it again, the other people, none of them kind of collaborated the accusations. Corroborated, sorry, the accusations more or less. I mean, based on what I got. So, I mean, it's a touchy example that he brought out. But again, and Cenk just says, oh, look who he brought up. But that actually shows the courage that, Glenn Greenwald, to support his point. He's even trying to bring examples which are toxic and which allow for this kind of discussion to happen.
Somebody who probably opposes Glenn's sexual orientation. So, like that was exactly, I think he was a perfect example because, and let me give you a context because I don't think you follow because during the last, especially when the Tara Reid situation, Tara Reid was not the famous actress. There is somebody who accused Joe Biden of a sexual harassment or sexual assault with, to be honest, with some evidence. Like there is a recording of her mom calling Larry King like it's the same year, saying my daughter works for a senator and all that. and all that. And that was pushed, like nobody gave a shit about that. She was kind of a smear. She was attacked as a mental health patient, and somebody called her Russia backed. I forget, somebody from mainstream media, Joe Scarb or somebody like that level. And nobody cared about that. And at that time, a lot of people, including Glenn, Matt Taibbi, I think, and Katie Halper, a lot of others pointed out the difference between the way Brett Kavanaugh accusations was covered and Joe Biden's accusations was covered. You could pick many other examples, but they were both politicians from different backgrounds. And the level of accusation, I would say for Brett Kavanaugh, to be honest, the evidence against Brett Kavanaugh may have been even less than the evidence against Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Although I would say the testimony of Brett Kavanaugh, if there was a testimony of a guilty man I've ever seen. I mean, I'm joking here, by the way. I don't know the truth, but his testimony was highly suspicious. His adventures with Buzz, Muscle, Buddy, Boor, and in beer drinking and going to the gym to get jacked. All of it did sound like will lead to a party that's he's gonna rape somebody. But anyway, the point with Brett Kavanaugh, and I was surprised that he didn't like that, the juxtapositioning. It's not that Brett Kavanaugh is innocent. He's probably there's a good chance he's guilty, and he should have been examined as closely as possible. But why there seems to be two sets of standards for two sets of people, group 100%. Of people.
Did TYT cover the Tara Reid thing? I think they did. No, they weren't like.
I'm not sure. I think Anna and Jacobin had Tara Reid on. I think.
Yeah, I think they covered
ages ago.
That would have been pushing it, because you're right. I mean, she had some interesting evidence, which was completely ignored.
There was definitely. Again, it was. Look, I think these things, these matters are best. We should reform the laws, but there shouldn't be so much media and people speculation over them, because it's all hearsay and it just builds up. But I would say there was for her case, it was very obviously ignored. Compared to every other case. Like Louis C.K. masturbated in front of two people. A comedian masturbated in front of two people, and it got national coverage, international coverage. So Joe Biden, candidate for the most important position in the world, former vice president, potentially assaulted someone, and nobody like my dad's generation, nobody knows about it.
No.
The people who watch CNN, MSNBC.
Yeah.
100%. My aunt, she lives in fucking San Francisco. She doesn't know about it.
Yeah. No, 100%. Okay, I think we've reached all our points. My last unimportant point is that Cenk cut the videos so short when he was making his points. I think it undermined them. I was like, honestly, if you leave it longer, there's parts that are worse. But it was just listen to this. It's 3 words.
And Glenn is
see?
TYT is not good. He doesn't even let the words, when the audio just fades out. It's really bad.
When you use these little clips like this, it actually doesn't help your point. I don't know. The way Kyle and Cenk used it weren't that good. I don't know how Jimmy does it. That's he uses it perfectly.
Kyle was okay. It was better than
much.
this.
But Cenk's was.
Glenn used them best, but I would say it's really funny. Glenn is working from his home in Brazil, and system update looks like it's been broadcast from Pentagon and blah, blah. But TYT, they have this budget, their studio and everything. And Cenk is guys, do we have the video? Yep, go, run the video, right? What the fuck is going on?
And I don't know what happened. Why the videos would be exactly, the sound would drop before the video finished. I don't know why that happened.
It shows the level of professionalism. I mean, again, we don't have any. Look at this. But you have money, you claim to be doing news.
And it didn't do him a favor in the points. If you would have left Jimmy laughing and giggling, maybe it wouldn't be fair in a way, but it would have helped his point. So Anyway,
Yeah. It's
let's
just
move on with this.
incompetence.
Let's move on to our the last story. So I think the Vanguard boys took a week off or something because they didn't post anything, but they came back with a bang and they had Glenn Greenwald on. So it was really fun interview to listen to, and Glenn Greenwald really seems to love them, which is great. And of course, they talked about the TYT stuff, which we just discussed. So people, if you're just seeing this clip, go watch The Progressive World. We talk about it, I don't know for how long. So the other things that they mentioned, Sam, is the intercept. I don't know if there's anything else you want to talk about intercept, or I think we included most of the points that that Glenn made in the previous.
Sorry. Yeah, I connected it to the whole funding issue.
No, that's
I
fine.
thought that's a
No, it was
good
very
place
relevant
to bring it up. But yeah, no, I have nothing else to add except that I think it's a more of a cultural management issue rather than a billionaire telling them to shift their policies.
So again, people, for the funding intercept stuff, watch our video. Here, I just want to mention, so Glenn goes on to talk about dogs and veganism as well, which I want to get to. And then his dogs were barking. I don't know if he has dogs or gargoyles, but like that was like the craziest sounding thing, whatever was going on for 10 minutes.
By the way, I 2 dogs.
I have a dog.
We have like I don't, not like you though. We have a dogs
big dog.
Like that one, like in a garden, like in stuff.
They make that sound.
What? No, rare. Like I remember, I think one time one of them was really sick and may have died. But that sound, I mean, is he okay, that dog?
No, but
Jesus
to be fair,
Christ.
I think Glenn said they have like 20 or 40 dogs on their property.
Yes, they run a homeless.
That was great stuff. So people need to go listen to that. So they've adopted dogs. They run some kind of
to be honest,
shelter where, they run a shelter, and then the shelter are also run by homeless people who have dogs. So they're the people who they employ. So they help them out, and they've rescued all these dogs, and now they're just trying to control themselves because they have dozens of dogs. And then he also talks about veganism and why he became vegan, and he really talks about, factory farming and how he always loved animals, but there's like this disconnect that sometimes people make between the animals that they eat and their dogs, and how you have to, if you want to become vegan, you have to try to overcome this kind of. And he talks about how they try to hide.
Every
just
time
like
I see a
cow,
I feel like a criminal.
Oh really? Okay, so I mean, you're getting closer. You can.
You
can join our side soon.
To be honest, I would never become a vegetarian or vegan because of factory farming, environment, that type of thing. That's just, I don't know, never. Because I think that is, in my view, that is, you must think of yourself as so important to, I'm gonna, because anyway.
Why? If you don't want to be part of animals getting animals like getting animals getting tortured, if you don't want to be part of animals getting tortured. So I mean, Glenn says that he did it for personal reason.
All right, even if you do that,
factory farming by himself.
Yeah.
Although
that's what I was going to get.
Since
I was a kid.
Yeah.
No, since I was a kid. No, but animal farming thing. I don't. Okay, you kill them slowly. You kill them harshly.
No, there's a big difference.
Say,
it's like being tortured.
It's like, no, we have to red lines. It's sure, I know, but in Syria, it's like Syria thing. The red line is chemical weapons until you tickle them to death.
No,
it's okay.
No. It's totally different. That was a shitty
my position is
example.
No, I think it is not. But I think my position has always, since I was a kid, was that I don't see any difference between a cow's life and a human even's life, to be honest, in terms of worth. Okay. I don't see how can one make that judgment. Right. So I think in that terms, it's moralistically speaking, it's complete, like it's obvious you shouldn't kill a living creature to feed yourself when you can feed on other things. I'm not talking about, by the way, children, because I think there are studies on the growth of children. That's different. But I'm talking about adults, adults that can afford other things than meat. So I'm a complete hypocrite because I think you're 100% right. But yeah, I just disagree with that. And like, I don't think that type of thing works.
What works to what?
People, we should become vegan, and then animal farming, factory farming becomes less, and then that becomes that, and
A
change.
Glenn literally says
Solidarity, bottom up
L
bullshit.
A Glenn literally says the opposite of that, right? But it
I know,
doesn't.
no, I agree.
But it doesn't mean that. But I don't accept that fully. I think. I mean, if enough people get turned away from factory farming, it could push to some kind of changes. If enough people are off put by it, maybe there will be
Sure, but that's
something
not going to happen.
that. Yeah, I mean, nothing is
That's
going to
not gonna
happen. That's
happen
kind of
because
like
people
protest
get
and stuff.
together.
If you say these things, like nothing ever happens and nothing really does happen except some slow changes. And then you kind of have to look back. You know, it's
Exactly.
kind of like the protesting. Oh, does this protest? It's impossible to find one protest. But you also don't know whether if there weren't these 10 years of protest, if the world right now would have been something different if there weren't.
I think there are more useful things to do than protest and unity and bottom-up approaches to change. I think bottom-up approaches to change are the most useless, most self-aggrandized.
What do you mean? Give an example. What do you mean? What, like, give an example of a bottom-up one.
So I think I'm not talking about you or Glenn. I'm telling. I think
yeah.
large segments or large portions of people are become vegan because they want to change the world, or become vegetarian because they think it will affect we are part of this system, but we disconnected from this system. No, you're still living in this country or in that country, I mean, or wherever. Or
you're trying to minimize
to our next segment as well. Yes, I'm trying to say their actions have the only effect it has, it makes them feel better about themselves. All it is, that's all it is.
No, that's one impact. Then you can also see some companies switching away their products a bit from using animals to not using animals because they'll know that they get more customers like that. So they try to get the vegan sticker on their package by just omitting some animal products, or less investing in animal farming because they see they can invest in these other products that can replace them. Okay, there's no change.
If your goal, like me, if your intention was that we kill less animals because animal life is precious, then fair enough. You killed less animals to an extent, you have achieved your goal. But if your goal was to combat climate change or global warming or change industrial structure, no, I don't think you have achieved even a smallest thing.
Yeah, not yet, but nobody will achieve anything in that way.
You have helped the system to find another way to sustain itself, to improve itself.
Sustain itself in a way that's better for the environment or the climate.
Not necessarily.
You take animal farming, is so much worse than if you eat vegetables on the climate. Of course, don't be ridiculous.
So what? No, not that. You said you changed it for the qualification systems, the ranking systems they have for corporations. Coca-Cola is considered one of the top 40 most environmentally friendly investment companies to do. There's no way to validate any of this. Coca-Cola claims to be for the environment, and
but climate change. That has nothing to do with any of my points. I don't disagree with that.
Well, they just put it like soya. Soya is one major replacement for meat. Soya itself is a major cause of, like, if your aim was to
soya is a major cause because then they make all the soy to give it to animals to eat, and then all the soy is grown for animals to eat it, and then on top of that they also release methane and everything. Like, for you to have a cow, you have to grow all that food that you give to a human times 10, give them all the water you give to a human times 10 for that guy to eat it, and then you go eat that cow.
Look, man, I don't want to get into details of this specific argument, but my view specifically is that if you think by not buying some product that has been animal testing, you have a smallest effect on climate change or on policies of big corporations, I don't think you are.
But stick to the exact example that you gave. Let's say some people animal testing. So let's say some people start going away from one perfume to another one that doesn't use animal testing. That can easily push this company to try and move away from animal testing. Anyway, I'm not naive. I don't think that, me being vegan or Glenn change the world. But the impact is also not zero, or you make it worse. I mean, it's near zero, but nobody's that naive.
Oh,
And
I
this
don't think
way
you
of
make it worse.
looking at protests
I
is the
think
same way. I mean, you can't judge these things with one action. You have to go look back, and then maybe you can find some arguments.
But no,
So like a
by the way,
single
I agree with you. We should go case by case basis first. Secondly, I agree with you that I don't think they have negative effect. I just think they're insignificant. They don't come into calculations.
More or
That's all.
less.
No,
More or
but
less.
I didn't understand your point about going back.
I just mean like because protests are also judged like that. So let's say if you want to look at
I think protests are justified like that.
If
They
you
are
want to
justified.
look,
they create this whole narrative about, yeah, we did this protest in the 60s and then this happened. They're justified like that, but they're not like that.
But I mean, immediately it's very hard to find correlation. Like the only protest I've seen
because
that like
there is none.
There was the football one. They made these billionaires.
Oh yeah, UK, yes.
The football one. They made these billionaires.
Was that immediate or not? Was that immediate or not?
But that was like one of the craziest examples of efficiency in protest. That was crazy
because
effective.
That was real protest. That was
it was very powerful.
People going out in.
But there are other times when people go out.
It wasn't people applying for permission for against the Iraq war, please, 1 million people. Like,
because they will get in trouble. They knew that these people, there were enough and they couldn't get in trouble. And I'm sure they also applied for permits or different things. Maybe in some of the situations.
These people could have gotten into trouble as well. British police treat hooligans like shit. But they
not
were
when
not
there are
afraid
many,
of trouble.
Because there were so many of them in this case too.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's the type of action that has effect. Not
that had insane effect. That had insane effect. But my point about going back is
that's the only type of action that has effect. The other types of action,
was just
what we are doing right now is just for us. This has I have no delusions about any.
It could potentially. I don't have any delusion either. But
that was perfect example.
If this was done in front of 100,000 people, could have convinced one person.
Okay, and that's
that's one person. That's not nothing. Or it could have been 5 people.
I think
or it could be 10 people.
Close to nothing.
I'm not. So I'm saying the impact isn't huge, but at the same time that it's nothing. And then you have to look over time. So if we in 30 years, if we look, oh wow, animal farming, despite the population being the same in 30 years, has not grown, and in fact, it's shrunk by 20%. Then you can perhaps make an argument that some people slowly becoming vegan and others has had an impact even there.
Fair enough.
But they're small ones. They're small ones.
And you have to look at causation and stuff. But I do think like real and significant and fast change only comes through the example you mentioned.
I mean, I can't think of another example. Have you ever seen like another this clear cut the next day? These billionaires, if not aware, these football billionaires who own football clubs in the UK, they try to pretty much take a bunch of the teams in Europe. Yeah, 4 out of 10 of them were in the UK. So it was really big in the UK. They want to take them and make it their own league. And there was such a big backlash that literally like 4 or 5 billionaires had in the next day or the day after completely scratch their plans and holy shit, we're so sorry. CEOs lost their jobs, like the head, like Manu, like insane impact.
It's crazy. No, but I think they made a mistake of not consulting the government in that case specifically, because the government quickly seized on a sort of a populist opportunity and said, this is unnationalistic and unpatriotic and all that. So there was a lack of coordination because literally 3 days, it took them 3 days and it collapsed.
To completely collapse.
Again, I mean, we should do an argument one time properly, well researched and well thought out, not just like that, about how can real change be.
But I agree with you. Real change is impossible, mainly. But I mean, anyway.
Unless you do a coup d'etat. Not really.
Even that is not as effective as the way those guys protested was like, that was like the most effective thing I've ever seen.
That's the most, if you want something like, done. Like, man, that's the thing though. That's why a lot of places are run by really, really like people who can only be described as assholes, because assholes are willing to, or dicks as, like do you remember Team America?
Captain
And he
Planet?
talks about dicks, assholes, and
Oh
vagina,
no,
pussies. No, Captain America.
the
No,
movie or
no, sorry,
something?
Team America. Team
Team
America.
America. Is that a movie? No,
Team America, the puppet movie.
Oh no, I don't
You haven't
recall.
seen Team America?
I don't think so.
All right.
But I wouldn't want to watch a puppet
Well
movie anyway.
discussed. The joke. Other people know what I'm talking about. But sometimes you need dicks to fuck assholes. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, well, I hope others understand. Anyway, the main reason I want to do this section to make my gargoyle joke about Glenn Greenwald's dogs. That was like my main thing. And then yesterday I went back and watched a little bit of Gargoyles, like cartoon on YouTube. It was interesting. But moving on from that, let's go to our last story, which is on critical race theory. Bad Fate. Bree had a podcast with Freddie Debore and Irami Osei Frimpong. And anyway, they talked about critical race theory. So I set up this story and what you want to talk about and all that. Go ahead.
So I thought in the progressive world, I mean, we'll see, but we're going to focus on the ongoing debates within the progressive world as well. And this was an interesting debate. There was a recently Republican reaction towards the increasing changes in the education system in the US, in which they include other, like they don't, like the traditional history that is told is being challenged by the new narrative, revisionist narrative. And to be honest, it's just such a varied system, the USA system as a whole, that you can't, in my view, I can't say all of it is for the better or all of it is for the worse. I don't necessarily agree with that project that is seeking to change the date of the founding of the US. Like there's 16 something project escapes my mind that tries to, by refocusing the history, like the narrative of history, to put the experience of the minorities and other groups at the forefront instead of the sort of the top 1% that held the money, power, and were white and Protestant and all that. I don't agree with all aspects of it, but some aspects of it is fantastic. It's just basically teaching people about actual history, such as like Tulsa massacre, in which, what was described as Black Wall Street was basically destroyed by KKK. So there's this debate, though. There is others who go even further. So I think the education system should be looked at on a case-by-case basis. But then you have these people, the most famous of which is this female writer, lady, Robin DiAngelo. And she wrote this book very based on her thesis, by the way. So this is a educated person, white fragility. And I think the subtitle is Why White People Find It Hard to Talk About Race. And in that book and in her workshops, which has been one of her workshops, was quoted by Fox News, one of the workshops she gave to the government officials during Obama years or something. Like in her book and stuff, she argues that all the white people are racist and like inherently and unconsciously, and they must own that racism all the time if we are to change the system. And its main focus is more on things like language, things like microaggressions, whatever they are. For example, which it's been extended to, like you can extend it to transsexual things as well, that, using the right pronouns for minorities. But I mean, the white fragility and Robin DiAngelo is mostly focused on race. So or for example, we should tell people not to, let's say, to refer to people not as Black, African American. And, if a Black person is, for example, late, a stereotype that Black people are associated with, for example, being late, you shouldn't ever like make fun of them, even like if they're your close friend, your best friends, he's always late. It's like you're making fun of that. That doesn't exist. You're unconsciously being racist. So she's the most extreme of the thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think, can you say his name again? The professor here, sorry. The funky.
I believe
academic.
it's Irami Osei Frimpong. Irami, right? And his
I
name,
don't
the
think
funky
she's
academic.
Funky. He's not taking that position or anything like
Yeah.
that. Or Bree is not taking that position or anything like that. But the other person, he's saying these type of things, and I agree with him, are counterproductive when you're trying to fight structural problems.
I mean, that's
which
exactly
is
what I was going to say. Can I cut you off right now? You won't
Sure.
lose
Yeah. No, go ahead.
I was going to say exactly. I mean, based on my very rudimentary understanding of critical race theory, which when you find out what it is, it's like examining social, culture, and legal issues as they relate to race. It's something very natural in the left or progressive world. So I guess I've just subconsciously been doing this. I didn't know that was a name. But my question for you is, what she's describing, the actions that she's trying to say to like own your own individual racism, that's completely opposite of critical race theory, right? Like, because critical race theory, based on what I understand, is more about how the different institutions and social and culture and all of these and the history with race are all intertwined. It's not only like personal action. You froze for a second. Okay, you're back.
This is critical race theory and that is it. Sorry, you can't say this is critical race theory and that's it, right? Just like you can say this is Marxism and that's it. Critical race theory came out of critical thinking, which is rooted in Marxism, rooted in the left. And it came out as saying, if I'm not mistaken, and the origin, like their roots, the Boy's famous African-American writer, like their roots goes far further back. But in 70s, I don't think they argued that it's some of them argue it's a factor that should be considered. Some say it's the most important factor, more important than race, more important than class. Sorry. Some of them, like Robin DiAngelo and stuff, they may even, I don't think I don't know what's their view on classes, but they may not even count class. But I would say exactly, it's this whole, I think actually, to be honest, in my head, I refer to all of these as intersectionality stuff. Like, you should take into account race, gender, sexual orientation, hair color, whatever that society considers important is a factor in affecting the power relations within that society.
100% agree.
So I think you have people within critical race theory that we would find very reasonable that say, okay, this is a factor that should be looked at historically and is very important. And then you have people within critical race theory like Robin DiAngelo and stuff that we don't agree with. So it's a broad church and there are different approaches. I would say in the case of USA, it's a very difficult one though. I would give them like, I would be completely against this type of thing. I am completely against. I think they are counterproductive.
Against what? Sorry, you're against what?
Against, for example, against Robin DiAngelo type thing, or against like, guys, we have to focus our language not to offend anybody.
Yeah, for sure.
I think actually coming to a level where everybody can offend each other to a equal standard, like the British people, for example, that shows maturity in my view, not censoring yourself.
But what about looking at the impact that US history has had on the housing situation or something? Would you take that seriously?
Wait, depends. If you put quotas, like universities, like they say, if you 25% or different stuff. By the way, besides quotas, they also have legacy systems, which is for white students. So both systems are awful. But if you put quotas, or like say we have to have like, let's say 20% of our diplomats need to be black because 20% of, or mixed race because 20% of population. I think those things would usually backfire. What you need to do create equal opportunities for jobs and equal opportunities for jobs and a lot of jobs. And then that, in my view, would lead to all the other problems are slowly being, not that you should completely abandon them, but they should be handled in a much more focused, local, small way rather than a global, national, or whatever. So that generally, that's my position in pretty much every, I think in most, in every country. USA is a slightly different thing, because USA had this unique form of a slavery which was so tied to race. Like it's so racially motivated.
Yeah.
And then later on, even like I think even later on, it became like, after they got rid of it, it even became more associated with race. Like because like it was an economic sort of thing for a lot of people who were looking at it at the time. But increasingly, I don't want to, by the way, I'm not one of those people who argues the American Civil War was just about economics. It was about race for sure too. But I don't want to, like, it's the race and class in the US has been so intertwined in a unique way. It's kind of like India with its caste system. It's the untouchable thing. It's just so intertwined with so many other things. So I've never been to the US. I never, that sort of thing. So I feel somewhat, I don't know how, like, US seems to be a very special case, but I still do think it's counterproductive because we want all people from all backgrounds to be equal, different colors, blah, blah, blah. And when you start focusing on those differences instead of economic differences, I do think you lose a lot of people, because majority of people, at least in the USA, the white people, they don't identify as white people. Because as the professor in the debate correctly points out, the biggest privilege of being white or being the top echelon of your society is that you don't think about that. You don't spend because you don't come into, police never treats you bad. So you never have to think about police is treating me badly because of my skin color or because of this. So that's the biggest privilege that those groups have. And I think by pointing out the economic issues, we can get a broader church saying, this Jeff Bezos, that guy and that guy, by funding these programs, or the Republican Party by funding wars, they are doing this. It's much better than pointing out that white people, because when you say white people, then you include vast majority who are, in my view, blameless. And that's where I get to my point of disagreement with Brie, in my view, which in my view put a question in a bad way. She said that she asked the funky academic that you say that all white people are responsible for racism in America. Yeah, we say that. And as academics, we can say that, and we can understand that because there's a systematic system and you contribute to that systematic system even when you don't want to. And there is responsibility there. But we want to get the message across, and just to get the message across, we should be a bit more diplomatic about our message. So her point of contention is not the message, is the way it's been communicated, right? I actually have a problem with the message, because look, we all live in a common society and all that, and we all pay taxes. So does that mean I am responsible for all the crimes that my government pay? If white people are all responsible for racism in the US, all black people are also responsible for the racism in the US. All black people are racist. Anybody who has paid taxes is responsible for the war. So this responsibility thing, I don't get. Nobody's responsible for what is this? Like, government is responsible for.
I mean, who says that though? But I don't. Who says that though? Like, Bree says that the average American is responsible for historical racism and current racism in the United States.
Maybe I am misinterpreting. No, to be honest, that's what the funky academic kind of implies later on when they talk about middle class, white middle class, and black middle class. But no, look, I watched the question 3 times, but maybe I'm wrong. She says that even if you think, and I kind of agree with you there, I think that's what she says, or I kind of sympathize with you there, that everybody's responsible for, for like all the white people are responsible for they have a responsibility towards racism in their community. And I understand what they're saying. We all are responsible for our community. If I shouldn't litter. I should have feel a sense of responsibility towards my community, my environment. But that's like racism. I think no. These are in my view are systematic and structural. I think racism, let's say religiosity among the population. In my view, these are idiotic ideas that there are systematic responsibilities, and just majority of people are not. Just 99%, 95% are not just responsible. Black, white, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the normal, the average. Continue. Sorry, I thought you were done.
No, just sorry if I may have understood the question wrong, because I was very surprised by the way she put the question too. So,
I mean, to be completely honest, I didn't quite. That's why I said you're gonna lead the dance here. I didn't quite understand the debate. Like, I didn't understand the different positions, or what was. The one thing that's clear is what the conservatives are trying to do, and I understand their bullshit excuse, and they're against critical race theory, and they're saying that it's changing our schools. Opala, that part I understand. But then after that, once we enter the conversation, I'm having trouble with everyone's kind of point of view, yours and them in the video. What is the point that is
academic?
Yeah, what's his point? Let's start with him.
Bree, they believe that race plays a much more important role than the other guy. They don't believe class, like the funky academic. It seems. I mean, they don't show the whole debate, which is I don't have the money or the access to subscribe. But funky academic says, for example, that middle class white America prefers having a black underclass is a good thing for the white middle class. It's not a war of all these classes against the top. Mm-hmm. Right? It's a hierarchy, and the middle class is fighting against the top, and it's also fighting against under its own, right? So there is you can't create. For him, I would assume it's harder to create this common solidarity among the middle class, because, and as he argues, and I think he's correct there, middle class in America has always been it's a New Deal middle class, which is a white middle class. It's never included Black America. It's never been. So he thinks race has played should be much more of a focus. For example, she gives a very specific mentions that if I go and say that if I go to a community and to a poor community where there are white people and black people, and I say these white people are ripping you off, and those white people are not even the white people that are ripping, will that have an effect? And Funky Academy says that maybe not in the short term, but in the long term, yes, it will be positive, because because that white people that are being ripped off and those black people that are being ripped off in different ways. Mm-hmm. And those white people that are being ripped off are in some ways ripping off these black people as well. So it's a fight of all against all, in a way. And he's right in some of it. I just don't think as a point of emphasis, in most countries, it's not a good idea, because in most countries it's not like America, when you have this weird legacy.
Yeah, America is very
10% of population was so they have they don't have inheritance, they don't have Bree was giving.
I mean, they weren't allowed to own houses until 70 years ago. I mean, That's like the
It's
foundation of life, especially in the
exactly. It's ridiculous.
US.
Like in Iran, like didn't have this that until like can you imagine in 70s in Iran, you would have a different bathroom for people
Yeah.
of different color. Like it's mental.
No, yeah.
Like I mean, American American racism is so bad that it gave, in my view, a slavery a bad name. Like a slavery was this sort of multicultural thing. You know, we go steal some young boys from, Bulgaria or somewhere. It was that. But now it's become synonym with this fucking racist thing. Nobody wants. It's like it Hitlerized. It's like it's like nobody
I
wants
mean, not that
to name their
slavery
child Adolf.
was ever like good,
No,
but
no,
you're
no,
trying
no,
to
no,
say
no,
that in
no.
history there have been different
It was
shades
so
of
bad.
slavery and
No,
different.
no, sure. No, I'm saying it was so bad that it gave a slavery a bad name. It's like
Or
it's like
made slavery even look worse, or so you want to try because
yes,
slavery always had a bad
exactly.
name. You mean like
Yes, and slavery was always like it's nobody was fan. Yeah, nobody was going. Yeah, good. It's like, but it was so bad that you mentioned the name. It's like Adolf. Like Adolf is not it's objectively a neutral name, but nobody names their child Adolf. Even if you
bad
have a
example though,
slavery
because
now in your
slavery is
country,
not
you try.
objectively is not objectively neutral. Sorry.
Oh, all right,
The term
fair enough.
slave.
No. Yeah, sure. No, but I mean, even if you do have a slavery in your country, you try to market it as something else now. Like, oh, we have foreign workers and they have,
it's very true.
good. They don't have some rights.
Yeah.
It's just so funny to me that it's just. But sorry, just this was a long tangent.
But no, the US's
point is,
history and how
but the guy says that. On the other hand, you have cases like you have one place in US where average, like in that specific borough, the average earnings of black people is higher than white people. It's one.
Yeah, what was his point?
District.
Yeah.
The point being that class and structural issues rather than people thinking about race. Like imagine if all the black people consciously thought about and all the white people thought about race. That doesn't matter to him. To him, what matters are structural and class issues, because class issues affects everybody equally.
Yeah, but it could be structural race issues as well. Like race isn't only an individual.
That's what he says.
It's structural as well. I mean, he falls quite well under critical race.
I think he's part of. They're both. No. Look, we are talking about a bad faith podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not talking about bullshit, 60-minute, conservative. They are both really close. Yeah. Like we're talking about this much difference, maybe, probably. But I would say, to be honest, the debate, especially with the funky academic, a lot of places, I had the same problem with him. Sorry.
Headphone died?
Sorry about that, guys. Technical difficulties again. But sorry, I was just saying that I had the same problem with funky academic on breaking points and on this. And I'm guilty of this too. I don't understand his answers a lot of times, to be honest. And I'm sure I'm interpreting it a lot.
Me too. Yeah, I was just holding my hand up in solidarity. You're not the only one. I find them interesting, but this is maybe my fault for not having enough of a background.
No, I think there is something, because Bree at some point, he clearly tries to strawman Bree's argument in a question. And then it's just the way I don't know, maybe I just don't get the context, because I think the white guy, the other person, he's also not arguing against the funky academic. He's arguing against the Robin DiAngelo stuff I told you in the beginning. So it's a bit of like it's one of those debates that it's like they're shooting above each other or something. Like it's just and then because questions you lose maybe because we don't see the whole debate.
I was gonna say a few things. To be fair, I listened to it twice because I very much enjoyed it, but I didn't have a big background in critical race theory. I was completely lost the first time. The second time I went and read a bit, and to be fair, you rarely see this on YouTube, but Bad Faith actually put like 3 or 4 paragraphs in the description part. So I read that, and that gave a bit context. And maybe we need to be more careful than this, but I think that debate could have really used like an opener by Bree. Did she have like a good sometimes you get pissed off, like, oh, why is the host talking? Just let these two like talk and stuff. But I think this one could have very much used like just like some kind of framework, what the issue is, and
I
what
think her
these
opener
two
was
guys.
fine.
Yeah, maybe I missed
I think
out
the
of it. I
opener
didn't
was
listen
fine.
well,
The guy,
maybe.
the white guy, what's his name? The other guy?
Oh, I believe
Prophet,
it's
the other
Freddie.
one.
I guess Freddie Debore. Freddie Debore.
Freddie Dore, he seemed fine. I mean, I thought there was this news story about Republican backlash against the thing. We put that into the context, then said, obviously, I focus a lot on the race. This program focuses on a lot of race. Some people say maybe we should focus more on class sometimes, or blah, blah. Then the guy, Freddie guy, his position that I'm critical of Robin DiAngelo stuff, funky academic, just got into really it's just refocus the debate. Something maybe I do sometimes too,
Yeah,
that
maybe.
sort of I go on a tangent, but I gave you my understanding of his view. His view is that I suppose all different groups of middle class or otherwise are fighting against each other, and it's not just, for example, he says Elizabeth Warren I thought was anti-rich and anti-poor. So, what he's opposing, and as
that
I
was a
think
good
about,
one. That
I
one
am
kind of landed.
increasing. Yeah, and I think I'm becoming more sympathetic the more I think about these arguments. Is that, for example, this idea that there is this, because in a way, to be honest, I this very personal view. I have the lowest personal view of bourgeoisie as it's traditionally been described, or middle class values. I think they're the worst of the worst.
Well, bourgeoisie values are different than middle class values.
No, by bourgeoisie I mean middle class. That's what I clarified. I'm clarifying by bourgeoisie I mean middle class.
Sure. So okay, so
right
stick to middle. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, that was the original definition of bourgeoisie, and they describe themselves as bourgeoisie. But I do think they have the worst values as a middle class is the worst. I genuinely hate the middle class.
What do you mean? Why? Okay, you gotta explain. What do you mean? You hate? What do you mean? What do you hate? Who and
values,
why?
as a values.
Like
the
what do you
values
mean?
they have, in terms of the taste. It's nuclear family. Family unit matters. Religion usually. I'm talking about by the way. Sorry, maybe I wasn't very clear. I'm talking about a very clear post-World War II middle class and bourgeoisie that emerged in US, Europe, lesser extent
I don't
Asia.
understand this whole working class and bourgeoisie that you're mixing together. I mean, bourgeoisie is by
No,
definition a class above middle class by a lot, and they have a much bigger impact on society. Of course, middle class person is a worker typically.
Google it.
Huh?
No. What? Oh, okay. So wait, you're America. Okay, you're mixed. Okay, in America, when they say middle class, they mean
someone who works over 9 to 5, makes somewhere around just above minimum wage and has enough to sustain just their family, and they have a home.
But okay.
And previously they mainly worked in factories and all that.
Okay, wait, no. But first of all, bourgeoisie always means middle class. That's always been the definition of the class between the working classes and the ruling classes was bourgeoisie.
Yeah,
that's the original thing. Okay,
fair enough. Yep.
That's first. Yeah, middle class in America.
Middle class, I agree. I think first you said working
class. In the
class.
UK,
I thought first you said working class.
In the UK, middle class. No, I said middle class. In the UK,
middle
class is viewed as high class. In the US, it's middle class is the working class. So I'm referring to the middle class in the sense of bourgeoisie, teachers, office workers of high end, yuppies. I'm referring to yuppies, professional managerial class, as some put it.
All right.
But that's middle class. Middle class by income, not by size of population, by the way. Middle class is not defined by the soft. Working class is always the biggest size, but they have the least amount of input in 100%, culture, in 100%, rules, in 100%. Everything, right? Ruling class has the most input in power-wise, but middle class in my, and I can get into details, blah blah blah, but middle class has the most input in terms of producing culture
Yep.
and having the overall control over the narrative, cultural narrative, and that type of thing, and producing movies, like feel good movies. That's like the product, that's like the best product, not best, I mean the best exemplifier of a product of bourgeoisie, that socialist champagne drinkers, kind of like me in a bit. Maybe that's why I hate them, because I'm kind of part of it. But yeah, anyway, so I don't like that culture. But
No,
that
I 100%
culture,
agree.
I think Funky Academic is trying to say that culture is not product, has no input from the Black experience. And the Black people who have become rich and middle class have basically forced themselves into that culture and assimilated rather than being accepted with their values. So I think that's what he's saying. And in case of America, I think maybe he's right. I don't know. Again, America is a weird case. I don't know if it's helpful, as Brie puts it, if it's diplomatic or if it's message-wise, if communication-wise, if it's right to emphasize it so much. But America is a very unique case. For example, like again in Iran, you had the slaves that were working for the ruling dynasty, and then those slaves overthrew the ruling dynasty and themselves became the ruling dynasty, while still claiming to be slaves to a child from that previous ruling dynasty. And these slaves were all like slaves that were foreign born and were brought and were, so you cannot, it's just such a weird American case, is such a weird case. Yeah. And by the way, at this historical point, maybe in 100 years it's not unique. So I was a bit dumbfounded by the conversation, but it was a great one. Although my instinct is to agree with the Fred guy a bit more. Naturally.
No, I see, fair enough. And I think we're getting a bit tired. So I think I really agreed with everything you said in the last few minutes. So I think maybe I misheard. But anyway, the way that you identified bourgeois class in this instance, then I 100% agree. So I think maybe there was a disagreement that was more on my fault. No, I mean, no need to say it again. You said it well. At least I understood.
Just to say that at least aristocrats and the ruling class and stuff, they don't buy their own bullshit, it seems to me. Like, it's like the rich, the people who sell, like the priest that sells a religion to somebody but doesn't himself believe in that religion type thing. At least he doesn't believe it. But bourgeoisie always reflected come to me, it was always somebody, the idiots who buy their own idiocy, or their own lies, like they buy your own lie that I work hard and got to this place, where it's a lie.
Maybe makes you feel better about yourself or think,
but I'm making a huge generalization, by the way.
But that's a good example that I hate so much. That's like one of my main issues in life. But anyway, I say we wrap this up. Okay, folks, please like and subscribe as usual, and please leave your comments, questions, and criticisms as always. And let's see where this video takes us. But thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in our next video. Thank you.